false divinity. The vast emptiness of space stretched before the United Earth ship Intrepid as it completed its reconnaissance mission in the Orion Spur. Captain Maya Chen sat in her command chair, reviewing exploration data when Lieutenant Reyes at the sensor station straightened suddenly. "Captain, massive object emerging from superluminal travel, bearing 045 Mark 012, Reyes announced, his voice tight with tension. The main view screen flickered to life, displaying an enormous vessel that resembled a gleaming obsidian pyramid, its surface etched with pulsing azure hieroglyphics. The ship dwarfed the Intrepid by at least 20 times. Defensive systems online. Commander Jackson ordered calmly from tactical. Shields at maximum. We're being scanned, Lieutenant Reyes reported. Comprehensive sweep across all frequencies, including some we've never encountered before. Captain Chen nodded. First contact protocols. Open communications, standard greeting package. The bridge fell silent as they awaited a response. Minutes later, the view screen changed to display a being that appeared almost human, save for the translucent silver skin that seemed to shimmer with internal light. Its eyes were solid white, pupilless, and it wore elaborate regalia adorned with symbols reminiscent of those on the ship's hull. I am Exarch Zolan of the Celestial Dominion. The being announced in perfect English. You have entered the sacred realm of the divine. For 100,000 cycles, we have guided lesser species toward enlightenment. Kneel before your gods, and you shall be blessed with our wisdom. Captain Chen's expression remained neutral despite her surprise. This is Captain Maya Chen of the United Earth ship Intrepid, representing the Sol Alliance. We greet you as fellow travelers among the stars and seek peaceful exchange. The Exarch's expression hardened. You misunderstand, Captain. We are not your equals. We are your gods. Your primitive vessel and crude technology betray your youth. The Celestial Dominion has shepherded 1,000 worlds into prosperity through obedience. Those who refused our divine guidance have been purified from existence. In the science lab below decks, Dr. Elias Kim studied the incoming sensor data with growing fascination. Their technology signatures are extraordinary, he murmured to his team. Energy outputs beyond anything we've encountered, but the modulation patterns seem oddly repetitive. Meanwhile, on the bridge, the conversation continued. Humanity acknowledges no gods. Exarch Zolan, Captain Chen replied firmly. We respect advanced civilizations and welcome the opportunity to learn from one another, but we will not submit to dominion, divine or otherwise. The Exarch's face contorted briefly before settling into a cold smile. Your arrogance is typical of young species. Witness but a fraction of our power and reconsider. A beam of brilliant azure energy lanced from the pyramid ship, striking a nearby asteroid. The massive rock disintegrated instantly into cosmic dust. Your primitive world will receive our emissaries in 7 rotations, the Exarch continued. They will establish the protocols for your species' submission. Resistance will result in purification. This is divine will. The communication ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in silence. Set course for Earth, maximum speed, Captain Chen ordered, and get me everything we have on that ship. Over the next 3 days, as the Intrepid raced toward Earth, the crew worked tirelessly analyzing the encounter. In engineering, Lieutenant Commander Sala discovered peculiarities in the Celestials' energy emissions. Their weapons are impressive, Sala explained during the senior staff briefing. But they're channeling at least 40% of their energy into the visual display. It's like they're deliberately making their technology seem more mystical than practical. Dr. Kim nodded in agreement. Their ship's design prioritizes intimidation over efficiency. And their communication systems. They're broadcasting on frequencies no developing species would detect, but any moderately advanced civilization would notice immediately. They're phishing, Commander Jackson realized. Targeting species advanced enough to recognize their technology, but not enough to challenge it. Captain Chen leaned forward. The question is, are we advanced enough? Dr. Kim's eyes gleamed. Their shield modulations follow a complex but ultimately predictable pattern. Given enough time and processing power, we might be able to identify vulnerabilities. Meanwhile, the celestial pyramid ship maintained position near the edge of the solar system, broadcasting continuous messages describing the benevolence of submission to the divine celestials. Earth governments convened emergency sessions as panic spread among populations worldwide. Admiral Katri of Earth Command looked grim during the video conference with Captain Chen. The Security Council is divided. Some nations are considering capitulation to avoid potential destruction. Request permission to implement Operation Prometheus. Admiral Chen proposed, outlining the plan her crew had developed. The Admiral's eyebrows rose. You're suggesting we challenge these gods directly. The risk is enormous. So is the alternative, Chen responded. Submission now would mean the end of human independence forever. After intense debate, Earth Command approved the plan. The Intrepid would not return to Earth, but would instead rendezvous with 3 other warships, the Dauntless, Resolute, and Fortitude, carrying specialized equipment developed based on the Intrepid's analysis. As the deadline approached, the celestial vessel moved closer to Earth, accompanied now by 5 smaller ships of similar design. Captain Chen addressed the combined crews of the 4 human vessels. The Celestials have maintained their power through fear and illusion, she said. Their technology is advanced, yes, but not divine. They've grown complacent, relying on the same tactics for millennia against less developed species. Today, humanity shows them they're not facing primitives anymore. The 4 Earth ships moved into formation at the edge of Mars' orbit as the celestial fleet approached. The main viewscreen flickered to life once more, showing Exarch Zolan, his expression one of mild amusement. Your resistance vessels are noted, humans, he said. A noble but futile gesture. Surrender now, and we shall be merciful in our divine judgment. Captain Chen stood from her chair, facing the screen directly. Exarch Zolan, humanity rejects your claim of divinity. We have studied your technology, your tactical patterns, and your history of subjugation. We offer you one chance to withdraw and recognize Earth as sovereign territory. The Exarch's amusement vanished, replaced by cold fury. You dare to threaten the divine. Your species requires a demonstration of true power. As the transmission ended, the massive celestial ships began to power their weapon systems, azure energy building along their hulls. All ships, execute Operation Prometheus, Captain Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the knot of tension in her stomach. May human ingenuity prove stronger than false gods. Human ingenuity triumphant. The space between Mars and Earth erupted with blinding light as the celestial fleet fired their weapons. Streams of azure energy cut through the void, aimed directly at the 4 human vessels. Captain Chen gripped her chair as the Intrepid rocked violently. Shields holding at 74%, Commander Jackson reported. Their attack pattern matches our predictions exactly. On the tactical display, the 4 human ships appeared to scatter in disarray, exactly as expected. The Celestials had encountered this reaction from countless species before. Initial defiance followed by panic and retreat. Phase 1 complete, Chen announced. Execute Phase 2. Deep within the Intrepid's engineering section, Lieutenant Commander Sala activated the experimental quantum interference array. Based on their analysis of celestial technology, the device began broadcasting precisely modulated signals that matched the frequency patterns of the alien shields, but with a crucial phase difference. Aboard the celestial flagship, Exarch Zolan watched with satisfaction as the human vessels fled. Typical primitive response, he remarked to his subordinates. They learn fear when faced with true power. Prepare the subjugation protocols. A junior technician suddenly straightened at her console. Exarch, anomalous readings in our defensive matrix. Inconsequential. Zolan dismissed. Their primitive scanners cannot comprehend our divine technology. On the Intrepid, Dr. Kim monitored the interference patterns with growing excitement. It's working. Their shield harmonics are destabilizing. The modulation vulnerabilities are exactly where we predicted. The 4 human ships abruptly reversed course, no longer fleeing but pursuing a coordinated attack pattern. The Dauntless and Resolute targeted the smaller celestial vessels, while the Intrepid and Fortitude approached the flagship from opposite vectors. "Target their primary power distribution nodes," Captain Chen ordered. "Pulse cannon only, maximum precision." The Intrepid fired, not with overwhelming force, but with surgically precise energy pulses that pierced the temporarily weakened sections of the celestial shields. The energy struck exactly at the junctions where power was routed to their weapon systems. On the celestial flagship, consoles erupted with warnings. "Impossible," Zolan shouted as systems began failing across his vessel. "They cannot penetrate divine protection." The smaller celestial ships fared worse. The Dauntless and Resolute executed perfectly synchronized attacks, exploiting the same shield vulnerabilities. 2 of the alien vessels lost power completely, drifting helplessly in space. "They're attempting to remodulate their shields," Commander Jackson reported. "Adaptive algorithms engaging." This was the critical moment. Traditional military doctrine would call for pressing the advantage, destroying the enemy while they were vulnerable. But Operation Prometheus had a different objective. "All ships, execute Phase 3, Chen ordered. The 4 human vessels pulled back to a defensive formation and activated their specialized communication array. Instead of attacking, they broadcast comprehensive technical data detailing exactly how they had identified and exploited the weaknesses in celestial technology. "This message is being transmitted across all celestial communication frequencies," Captain Chen announced. "We are sharing this information with every world in your domain. Your technological vulnerabilities are now known to all species under your control." Aboard the damaged celestial flagship, Exarch Zolan stared in disbelief at the incoming data. For millennia, the celestial dominion had maintained power through technological superiority and the careful myth of divinity. Now, in a single engagement, humans had not only penetrated their defenses, but were systematically dismantling the foundations of their power. "Cease transmission," he ordered frantically. "Purify their vessels immediately." "We cannot," Exarch, his weapons officer, reported. "Primary and secondary weapon systems are offline. The humans have specifically targeted our power regulation nodes, a vulnerability that has existed in our design for over 12,000 cycles." For the first time in his long existence, Zolan felt something he had never expected to experience. Fear, not of the humans themselves, but of what their actions represented. The end of celestial dominance. The communication screen activated, showing Captain Chen's resolute face. "Exarch Zolan, your vessels are disabled but not destroyed. This was our choice. We could have annihilated your fleet, but humanity does not seek destruction, even of those who threatened our existence." Zolan's voice had lost its imperious tone. "What do you want?" "Recognition of human sovereignty and independence," Chen replied, "and the immediate liberation of all worlds under celestial control. No species deserves to live under the yoke of false gods." "You cannot comprehend the chaos this will cause," Zolan protested. "For 100,000 cycles, we have maintained order in this sector of the galaxy." "Order through deception and fear is no order at all," Chen responded. "The species you've subjugated deserve the chance to determine their own destinies." 12 hours later, representatives from Earth met with the celestial delegation aboard a neutral station orbiting Mars. The terms of agreement were straightforward. The celestial dominion would withdraw from Earth space immediately and begin the process of relinquishing control over other worlds. In return, humanity would share certain technological advancements, not weapons, but medical and environmental innovations that the Celestials, in their millennia of stagnation, had never developed. "You do not understand what you have done," Exarch Zolan told Captain Chen after the formal agreements were signed. "Some species are not ready for independence." "Perhaps," Chen acknowledged. "But that's not for you or us to decide. True advancement comes not from control, but from cooperation between equals." 6 months later, Captain Chen stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned diplomatic vessel UES Prometheus, watching as representatives from 20 formerly subjugated worlds arrived for the first Galactic Cooperation Summit. "How does it feel to be the one who toppled gods?" Commander Jackson asked, joining her at the viewport. Chen smiled slightly. "They were never gods, Jackson. Just visitors who stayed too long and forgot they were guests." As the delegates began to arrive, humans greeting each new species as equals, a new chapter in galactic history began, one founded not on fear and submission, but on mutual respect and shared advancement. The false gods had fallen, and in their place, a community of equals would rise, all because one human warship had dared to challenge divine illusions with the most powerful force in the universe, the truth. Retroclaude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.